Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are again.
Once again.
Drinking some more beers.
Yep.
Chatting, enjoying our evening. So we're going to, again, go across the pond and continue our international import review. We're drinking Andechs, and I preface this with, I am not German. I do not speak German. There are probably words that I will get wrong. So we're going to do our best.
Like reading the bottle before recording, and both of us were just like, yeah, we're not going to say any of this.
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
Klosterbrauerei Andechs, we're going to stick with, it's just Andechs.
Andechs is fine.
Yeah, we're going to go with that.
And we're drinking their Andechs Hell. I'm going to assume that I just said that right.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with it.
It's a lager.
It's a Hell's lager, yeah.
In classic German beer style, the ingredients listed were, what were they again, Lauren?
Water, malt, hops.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Classic
all we got.
Germans.
Yep.
And, you know, classic is good. Simple is good.
Yeah, no, this is... I've actually prefaced this also with, I've never had this before.
Me neither. As I said in my previous episode...
Ooh.
Yeah, let's take a moment before I finish that sentence.
Sorry.
This is refreshing.
It's very refreshing.
Good.
This is, I mean, it's got a different flavor with it than a normal Hell's.
It's because we don't drink beer that's got a malty flavor ever. Like, almost ever. Who did we drink recently? Was it Art History? That has a lot of like German-inspired beer, and that was a very pleasant detour. Didn't they have like an IPA? I think that
I don't
it?
remember. I'd have to go back.
That was
but
totally different than
totally
all these
different.
IPAs we've been drinking lately, and this is very similar to that in the sense that we just have not had this beer style.
No, yeah, I mean it's
forever.
a lager, and that's what they make. But it's got a very refreshing taste to it. It's got a really good flavor.
I could drink a liter of this.
Yeah.
In a giant mug.
Liter of cola. This is this is really good. I'm just maybe it's because it's something that I'm not used to drinking much of, that I honestly haven't lately, but this is a really good flavor. I am actually thoroughly enjoying this.
Yeah.
So.
This is really good. A great way to start our episode while talking about possibly the oldest brewery that we featured.
Yes, I think it probably is the oldest that we've featured so far. My only guess would be, I don't know how old. No, I can't imagine Heineken is older than this brewery. I can't imagine that. No, I don't believe
I know we drank
are.
Heineken and Dutch Heineken on an episode.
Yes,
obviously
we did.
None of the Americans are going to be this old.
It was the 1800s as a Heineken, but it's not nearly
not
as old
even
as this.
close.
Yeah, and even the last brewery we did from Belgium was 1800s as well. So this is the oldest. This is the oldest brewery we have featured for sure.
Wow.
So, and if you'll see, if you ever do get it on the bottle, I believe it says it was established in 1455.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
so we hadn't yet started our murderous rampage of North America. If
Right?
you guys are looking back at history, we're kind of not there yet.
No, yeah, 1455, just outside of Munich is where they are. Yeah, I'm really liking this beer. I'm gonna have another sip, and then we'll talk more about Andechs.
Yeah, share some stuff about Andechs, and I'm gonna sip on this as well. Very drinkable, very, very drinkable.
Very drinkable.
This is really good.
This is really good. So Andechs 1455 is when essentially they have the first record, I guess, of them. Realistically, they've been brewing beer in that spot for much longer. So pilgrims would come to the monastery there hundreds of years before this, and it's at the base of the holy mountain of Andechs, which is why it's Andechs. So, religious pilgrims would come and they would, give hospitality in the form of beverages and whatnot.
Okay.
So they may have brewed beer prior to that, but technically this Andechs brewery has been there since 1455. So this is one of the last monastery breweries still managed by an active religious order. There's only a handful, but this is one of them. So
That's so cool.
Benedictines of St. Boniface Abbey. The monks there actually use the finances they get, the revenue they get from the brewery to help their causes. So it helps them to help for the local homeless population. And they don't actually use church tax funds. They use the money they get from brewing beer. And they also have a distillery. They distill schnapps, they make cheese, and they have a bakery there as well. So
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think they also have a butcher on site. So like all the things, they have all the things right there.
Sounds like a really fun place to hang out.
I mean, kind of like, yeah. So kind of interesting.
Should I be a monk?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
Just because of the beer and the cheese and the bread is not.
That's not enough. There's a lot more to it.
There's a lot more to the monks. Yeah.
Okay, fair.
There actually was a document from prior to when they were established. It was from 1438 that showed that the Andechs Tavern at the monastery was granted tax-exempt status.
Yes.
Back in the early 1400s. In 1458, the Duke granted the monastery the right to retain the alcoholic beverage tax for monastery purposes, which normally would be paid to the government. So that was a big deal. They got to keep that.
That is awesome.
That was in 1458. Like, that was right after they were technically
going
were
on
established.
for a while now.
Yeah, so there's not a lot known about the beer business in general, particularly Andechs, between when they started in 1455 to 1803. In the Munich archives, there's literally only 3 references to beer in all of the documents that are currently saved.
Wow.
So we really don't know much other than it's been happening. They've been brewing for a very long time, and the tax exempt status is most of all that is documented. So
nice.
I've read not just about this one, but just in general, back then the right to brew beer was just kind of something that was assumed. So there wasn't documentation, there wasn't any of that. It was just like, this is what you do. So there wasn't anything to document. It's just a normal practice.
So they didn't have to get their labels approved?
Yeah, no, not so much. That's a modern day thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, so they did. So in 1803, the original monastery actually was dissolved and the land was sold. So they did have a period potentially that may not have been operating continuously, or maybe they were still brewing beer. It sounds like the monks were still brewing beer, but maybe it just wasn't official. And a few years later, King Ludwig, who was the king back then, I guess, purchased the whole complex, including the remaining beer inventory that was there in 1803 when the place was when it was dissolved, and that's when it actually established the St. Boniface Benedictine Abbey that it currently is.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what it was referenced to prior to that, but that was in the early 1800s. So that inventory eventually ran out. New beer had to be brewed. So there's been a monk as the head brewer forever. So a monk is the head brewer that then a new head monk will take over once that brewer dies. So there's not like a like they may be an assistant brewer for a while, but they don't take on that title until the previous monk actually passes away.
Holy cow, it's like the Supreme Court, you guys.
Yeah, so it's they only name a new official head brewer when the previous one passes away. So yeah.
What a cool job.
So super.
I want to have my job until I die. No, I don't.
No, I don't. No, not even kind of. So interesting.
I take that back. I have a lot of regrets from the first 10 minutes of this episode already, I think.
They've been operating for a long time. Some of the history of it, in 1871, they converted to steam power. So they were just, prior to that, they didn't have that. In 1929, they converted to copper kettles. Before that, it was iron.
I don't think that makes beer taste good.
Right? So very interesting. They increased production year over year. They wound up building new malt houses, new storage. In 1920, they started transporting barrels by rail. They put it in a bottling plant on site. They still bottle everything on site. Their original bottling plant started in 1955. And then they essentially did a whole new brew house, fermentation, storage, everything in 1984. So it's a huge complex now.
Wow.
More brand new in the 80s, but they've continued modernization through, even through, I think, 2016, they did another improvement to their bottling facility. So they've been continuously upgrading and keeping up with modern times. And all of those things. So they've been doing this for hundreds of years, and they've been keeping up. And they currently, I think they said they produce about 85,000 U.S. barrels. They don't use the same metrics, but the equivalent of 85,000 U.S. barrels a year. Their Dunkel is one that I believe they produce all year round. Some of them are seasonal, but that one they actually make all year. So they still, if you go there to visit, they still have mass on Saturdays and Wednesdays and 3 services on Sunday. So there's still a working actual monastery that you can go and attend church at, and buy cheese and bread and beer. So
I would like to yet again point out that I was in Munich and did not go to this place.
Yeah.
But I will say this time I was probably like 16.
16 is a legal drinking age.
Yeah,
in
no,
Munich.
I was definitely allowed to drink. I know that for a fact because we were there. Please don't be mad at me, you guys. We were there during Oktoberfest, and we went to the Hofbrauhaus.
Oh, yeah.
During Oktoberfest.
Makes sense.
And I believe some member of my family bought me a half liter of beer. Not this brewery's beer,
but
Hofbrauhaus beer.
Yeah.
But I did not appreciate it because I was 16 and didn't drink beer. True. And even if I did drink beer at 16, I probably wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah. No, that's probably true.
I would absolutely love to go back. We talked about that lottery episode. And
what we would do. Yeah.
What we would do.
That should be on the list.
I would totally do some brewery tours of Europe. I will do that anyway, you guys.
We should do that anyways. Yeah. That's not even if we win the lotto. That's just a
long-term fundraising goal for me.
Yeah, no, I like it.
I'm in to go on a brewery tour of Belgium and a brewery tour of Germany for sure. Yeah. Pretty much for sure.
And visit some of these. And so this brewery started in 1455. It's still not one of the top 10 oldest breweries in the world, though. So there's ones that have been from 1013 or something.
Goodness.
I mean, there's older.
I love it.
So it's super interesting.
I want to visit those places.
Right? We got to make a list. We'll have to see what we can get here. So they didn't actually start exporting some of Andechs specialty beers to the US until 2013.
Oh,
so you might have been able to get maybe the Dunkel, but they didn't start exporting to here until within the last decade, realistically. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, so we should definitely see what we can get. But yeah, it was super interesting to take a look at. I don't know how many monasteries still run breweries. I know there aren't nearly as many as there were back. That's when they kind of started. But that's definitely something that's very unique. We talk about breweries that are now housed in churches in the U.S., but not run by any sort of religious order. So very different. So then ones we've, Beer Church is in a church, but it's not actually run by them.
And I don't know if we've had anyone's origin story be that they were a monk
Yeah.
And they were brewing beer.
And they're all their head brewers, even still. They started getting more and more people in modern centuries in that were not a part of the religious order, but not the people that are actually brewing the beer and running the operation. So obviously there's marketing and different types of things. Yeah, I was going to
say, I'm sure that there are, the accountant isn't a monk.
But even up when they first started, every position was part of the religious order because that's who was there. And
sounds like my dad's business.
Yeah, right. They're all part. It's all of a cult.
I was very recently asked by a friend of ours from elementary school, actually, if my father had gone to college for graphic design.
No.
And I was just like, I don't think that they had that in the 60s.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
I mean, like my grandfather drew the machinery parts for a company that sold machinery parts for their catalog. Sort of like the company
still do that
you and honestly, I will tell you the name of the company after this, and you can tell me if perhaps they eventually got absorbed into your company. Yeah. It's a very good possibility. But he worked for a company where he actually drew the pictures for the catalog of like exploded view, machine parts and things like that. And I was thinking about it when this friend asked me if my father went to college for graphic design. And it's funny because my father's history with jobs is always, he's just had many, many jobs over the years. And sign making was certainly not the first job.
No.
And I assume it will be his last, but
one would assume. Yeah,
I would never make assumptions about my father. He can do whatever he sets his mind to.
Frankly, he might have other jobs you don't even know about. So.
I don't like to think about that, but I think you're totally right.
Moving on.
However, she was very surprised to hear that nobody in my family has graphic design education.
That's true. Yeah.
And it is true. My brother did not go to school for any sort of design field or artistic field at all. He was an economics major.
Yeah.
I was a political science major, but I wasn't originally planning to work for my father. So do I think if I had always planned on working for him, maybe I would have studied design? I think it's possible.
Sure.
I think I would have gone that route over going like the route of like finance or something. Only because I think that I would have seen design as more applicable on the day-to-day basis.
That's fair.
Whereas hypothetically, I could hire somebody to do the accounting.
That's definitely true.
Anyway, but I thought that was very interesting that she was like, "Oh, so are you all like graphic designers?"
Nope.
And I was just like, "No, none of us."
None of us actually are. We just kind of fell into this.
Yeah, like the monks.
Yeah, they just needed to continue brewing the beer, and I think it really was just they needed pilgrims were coming, and they needed something to give them, so they made beer back then. That was just what you did, and you fermented some stuff, and then they ran out of beer, and they had to keep making beer. So just did, and that's it.
I'm sure grateful to them for this.
Yes, me as well. I'm rather sure that most people that go into the religious order to be a monk, I know a monk personally, would not assume that they would be brewing beer as part of that.
Yeah, which is funny because I'm going to be honest, I think that's my first reaction to somebody being a monk is, do you brew beer? Because I'm, like a beer snob now.
Fair, but I would also say the monk I know is from the U.S., so it's not the same.
Sure,
we don't have
absolutely.
We don't have that here, but definitely would be interesting. I should ask him if he's ever been to one of the monasteries where they brew beer. Actually, he's traveled the world, so
I love that. You should ask.
I think I might actually email him and ask him.
I love that. You should definitely.
Yeah. All right. Definitely. So monks and beer. That's where we're at tonight.
Yeah. Cheers. Let's have another sip of this hell.
I'm liking this. This is tasty.
Yes.
They make a lager.
Delicious.
They know what they're doing there.
They've had a lot of time to practice, and they've gotten really good at it.
They
you guys.
Definitely have. They've perfected the lagers, at least thus far.
If you have an import section in your liquor store, I strongly recommend you stroll around for a minute. Good luck finding it.
Yeah, because we don't understand how the liquor stores actually organize this.
Is this like chronological? What are we doing?
I have no idea. I'm super intrigued. But anyways,
no idea.
Try and figure it out and let us know, and give them a look for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Totally.
So
let's talk about family. Yeah. I mean, I know we sort of always talk about family, but we're going to talk about family in a totally different light today, and I think that's good. So we're going to talk about the family you are born with, the family that you choose, the family that comes to you.
Yeah. All kinds of different ways.
I kind of broke it down into a couple of different categories. Okay. Obviously, my first thought was, okay, well, what about my actual family? Yeah. How do I feel? What's the connection? That's kind of what I think me and Lauren are going to talk about, is what kind of connections do we have with these different, what you would call like family members. And some people who you consider family aren't actually blood relatives.
Yeah.
Or the people that you
to say that none of my family are blood relatives.
Yes, I was actually just about to qualify my statement and say, or the people who raised you.
Yes.
Blood relatives is a very specific term, and I did not realize it.
No, but I mean, most people wouldn't.
No,
so
you're right.
I'm probably the minority.
I think that's true.
Yeah,
but I think that. So that family environment, the people you grew up with, the people that you have that connection with, the people that lived in your home with you, because even people who have blood relatives, those individuals who lived in your home may not have been the people who raised you, or
also
may or may not have been the people, or maybe people who lived in your home were not blood relatives, but your parents were, or
there's all kinds of
friends or cousins, or the grandmother lives with you, or whatever combination of family. For me, my actual family growing up were my parents and my brother. My brother is much older than me. Many, 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 many years older than me. He is many. Yeah. Almost 7 years older than me. I don't know how most 40-year-olds feel about their immediate family. But I'm very, very close with mine. I often believe that I am the exception and not the rule. I think that a lot of people have some connection to their immediate family, and sometimes that's a close connection. But I actually work with my immediate family.
You see your immediate family much more than I would guess the average family does. I spend
a lot of face-to-face time with my family. Yes. There are multiple days during the week that I eat lunch with my mother, father, and brother.
Right, yeah. That I don't think most people can say.
And it's funny because I realize it every now and then when we are eating lunch together, and I just like... I don't know what the feeling is, but I'm just sort of like, this is so weird. I love it, but it's kind of weird.
It's definitely unique. It's not, most people don't work with their their family,
or at least spend this much time with their family, which is obviously because we all work together for the most part. But I'm very close. I do think that it influences all of my other, what I would call familial relationships that I have. Because a lot of the other categories that I'm going to mention are people that at times I hold to the same standard as my immediate family. And sometimes that kind of burns me a little bit because I don't realize what I'm supposed to expect from people.
That's super interesting that you say that, because I think... as I think about not necessarily my family, but of close friends that I consider, we'll get into it, but like kind of like family, a lot of those people are actually not as close with their immediate families. So I feel like there's a, grabbing on to other people because they're not necessarily as close with their parents or their siblings. And I didn't really think about that till you talked about it. I referenced just shortly ago that, for me, nobody is a blood relative to my knowledge. I'm adopted. My brother is adopted. So my parents are not my biological parents, but they are who raised me since birth. And my brother came to us. He's 3 years younger than us. But from, he was a few days old as well. So our entire life of memories and anything like that has always just been my parents and my brother. So we are also very close, which is kind of unique in the fact that, you're saying you feel like you're a little bit more of the exception to the rule, and you are in terms of how much time you spend with your family, but we are also very close, at least with my parents. My brother lives in the city, and then he travels Monday through Friday to a different state, so we don't see him nearly as often.
Okay.
My mom still talks to him all the time, and I don't talk to him nearly as much because when he's traveling, like, he's working all the time, and then when he's home, he's trying to do things with the people that he sees down there. He lives with his girlfriend, and kind of reconnect. But we're definitely still very close. Like, I would not say that me and my brother aren't close. We are. We just aren't geographically close anymore.
Yeah.
But my parents, I see my father 6 days a week because he helps with my kids. I see my mother probably 3 days a week, which I do think is unique from a lot of my other friends that don't work with their parents or whatnot. We eat dinner together at least a couple of times a week, and we see them often.
Sure.
So like when my parents go a day or two without seeing my kids, they like go through withdrawal because they're used to seeing them on a very regular basis.
Right.
So we are very, very close. And it's, super interesting the fact that we are adopted, but, that nature versus nurture thing, like, we are very similar to our parents.
Oh, sure.
Very. We've picked up their personalities over the years, and I'm very much like my father in a lot of ways. But it's, we're a very close-knit family. My husband isn't, I wouldn't say, nearly as close with his mother. They're they love each other, they're fine, but they don't talk that often. They went 1 year not talking for 6 months, and I had to be like, call your mother. Like, you and they're both incredibly stubborn, so like if one doesn't call, then the other will just not call. And I'm like, no, you just need to call.
It's not
and so they're
hard.
much better now, and I think they're a lot better because we have kids too, and that's her only grandkids because my husband's an only child, so like part of that is the family. They want to see each other, but they're definitely not nearly. We don't see them. Sometimes we don't see them once a month. Like, we don't see them nearly as often as my parents. So.
I would say the same about my husband's family, and from both sides, from like my husband's relationship with his family, and as sort of a byproduct probably of that, my family's relationship with my husband's family.
It's kind of dictated by, like, you are close with your family, so your kids are going to be close. Like,
yes,
and it kind of works with which parent.
Well, and there was without going into too much what I would call drama,
sure.
I will say that there was a period of time where I made what I would call a great deal of effort to increase the amount of time my kids spent with my in-laws, with my husband's parents, and even my husband has one sister, even her family.
Sure.
She has two boys who are kind of like staggered the same distance as my two.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're like both a year younger than my two kids or something like that.
So they're still close. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're very, very similar in ages. And there was a time where I felt like I made a great deal of effort to spend regular amount of time with them. And it just wasn't as productive as I kind of thought it should be. And part of that is, like I said, my expectations of my immediate family probably cloud my opinion in this way.
I completely understand that. We are so used to our parents, both you and I, having a certain level of whatever, and not everyone does that.
Correct. For example, my 8-year-old had a kid's birthday party yesterday of the day we are recording this episode.
Yes.
So not yesterday of the day it is released, but just this last weekend. And my in-laws are out of town. If I had invited his grandparents, my husband's parents, to this birthday party, and they live 2.5 hours away, let's say, there's no way they would have come.
No.
Like no way.
Yeah.
And not because like I don't, like them, or they don't like me, or they don't like my kid. None of those things.
No,
it's not
but they
bad.
just wouldn't have made the effort.
They would have just been like, nah.
Yeah.
We'll make plans for his birthday. We'll come early in the day and we'll spend some time with him, or we'll see him on the next day, or whatever.
Yeah.
My parents, on the other hand, I didn't even give them an invitation. They were just like, what time is the party? Where is it?
Yeah, we'll be there.
My mother made goodie bags for the party,
she did.
which was stressful because we had a lot of late additions to the party, but also because, as you and I have mentioned many times before, our mothers are those kinds of people, and we are not those. Like I don't buy like Easter presents for my children,
but
my
our
mother
mothers do. Yes,
and I don't make goodie bags for a birthday party, but I got cupcakes.
Yeah,
but my mother definitely makes goodie bags. So this was like she was coming to the party because she was bringing the goodie bags.
Yes, this is true.
So that was, and that is an example of our relationship with my in-laws, my marriage family, which is kind of what I call them. Not that they're their faces, but, but, and I do have a good relationship with my in-laws. I do. Yeah. They like me, I think.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah.
We get along well. We do see each other for Christmas. Okay. I would say holidays, but that's not really accurate because we don't see them for Thanksgiving or Easter.
So it's just
really
Christmas,
just
really.
Christmas. Yeah. And the kids' birthdays is kind of a toss-up.
Okay.
If we have some type of family gathering for the birthday, they will join us. Okay. And they have.
Yeah.
But if we do just like a kid's
party.
More
of a kid party, yeah.
My in-laws probably won't come. They don't make a ton of effort to go to the boys' like extracurricular activities that we just finished talking about last week.
Yeah.
If my son were to graduate from middle school, high school, stuff like that, they would absolutely
like a
come.
big thing, yeah.
But the week-to-week stuff, it is a commitment to travel. My in-laws don't really like to stay the night other places.
Oh, okay.
Well, they don't like to stay the night at my house. I don't know if they are also against hotels. They do travel.
Sure.
I don't know. There are things about my in-laws that I don't like fully understand, and I think a big part of that goes back to the like what I expect from my family and what I get from my husband's family are different.
Yep.
And as a result, sometimes I'm like, am I allowed to ask them why they won't stay in my house? I mean, my parents don't stay in my house, but they also live half an hour away.
Exactly.
But would they?
Probably. I mean, honestly, if they were babysitting at your house and they had to spend the night, I bet they would.
Yeah.
My parents
my mother
would if needed.
has.
Yeah, exactly.
Once or twice stayed at my house.
If there was a reason.
For, whatever occasion it brought that up. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm in a similar boat in that my parents are just they're very much a part of our day-to-day lives. And so that is just, and that's on them as well. Like my father has the expectation that he is going to help us. Right. My mother also has that, like, they are going to be there. This is kind of their job now. They're retired. They're the only grandkids. That's part of what they do. And it's just different with my in-laws. So there's been some times that, my parents actually get a little bit frustrated because they help us out a lot. Even with babysitting and helping drive the kids places or sports or whatever. And I think that's just what they expect, but they don't understand either that my in-laws don't necessarily, or don't have that
Right.
drive to, or feel.
Sure.
And maybe it's because my parents feel a sense of responsibility to help us. Like, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that their parents helped them as well, so maybe that's just what they expect to do. The interesting thing is that my husband's grandparents pretty much raised him. So, like, my mother-in-law's parents did a significant amount for her and her son, when he was growing up. And so they'll definitely come and help if we ask them to, but they've bailed on us for things.
Yeah.
Like, we needed to, go, we've canceled weekend plans. We came home early from a airplane trip, because they decided something else was more important. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. So my father-in-law is my husband's stepfather. He does have 3 kids. He has another set of grandchildren. And those are by far his priority.
Yeah.
So, and my husband's not his kid officially. So they take priority over us and our kids. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, a little bit of a sticking point with me sometimes, which is frustrating.
I understand.
So.
And you and I, like I said, our perspectives are kind of unique.
Yeah.
And it's strange to us to have a different perspective kind of pushed upon us in some ways. And I think that my in-laws, my husband's parents, maybe are a little more committed to my husband's sister's kids, but probably just because of geography.
Sure. Yeah.
They live in the same town.
Yeah. It's different when you're geographically closer to people.
So
yeah.
It's very likely that that's the biggest factor in that situation.
That. Yeah.
I will say that at one point there was a conversation between my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my husband's sister, my sister-in-law. Once things kind of started to, we're in the bad place. But when people started to kind of like reassemble a little bit, when they were seeing each other, the real initial beginning there where nobody kind of saw each other at all. Yeah. And then we had summer where we were young and free and we had no idea what was going to happen.
And then
they locked us in our houses again, sort of. But I don't know. But and there was a time at one point, and perhaps it was when people were starting to get vaccinated, I don't remember exactly, where my sister-in-law was like, oh, well, now that that's happened, you guys can start babysitting the kids again. And my mother-in-law was just kind of like, oh, yeah, we could probably, take them so you guys can have a night out or something like that. And she was like, no, I want you to do every Sunday.
Oh.
And then I believe, and also keep them Sunday night and drop them off at school on Monday.
Oh.
I'm not sure about that second part, but every Sunday. And I was just like, every Sunday?
Wow.
And at one point, we had invited my in-laws, or had asked my in-laws to, like, take the kids for a weekend. And I was just kind of like, I wonder what's going to happen on the Sunday.
Right, exactly.
Are they going to be like, we can't
because
take
we
your
have
kids
to
because
watch
we have
the
to
others?
be in time for the other kids?
Yeah.
Like, I was very concerned. I assume my sister-in-law was very annoyed with us because that's not how it went down. So she probably had to sacrifice one of her precious Sundays
I think
for us. And I think my in-laws have taken my kids twice in the last year.
Exactly. So it's not like it's a regular occurrence. Yeah.
No, it is not. Not at all.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some other family relationships though, because I could spend a lot of
Too much time talking about that.
Talking about my in-laws, positives, negatives, undecideds.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. I want to point out that I have, and I'm not sure if you have this, but I have kind of a work family.
I will say that in my previous job, which was like a decade ago, I was much closer to the people I worked with. Yeah. So last weekend, I met for dinner people I worked with and their significant others, and there were 5 or 6 of us. Okay. And our significant others that I still feel very close to. My current job is not like that.
Yeah.
It's just not. In the role that I'm in, and in the we haven't been in the office for 2 years.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
But my previous role, I traveled. We spent a lot of time
sure.
together. So
Yeah.
we were on the road together. So
Right.
one of my best friends, Marilyn, I worked with at my
Okay.
old job. And
Okay.
that's how we met. We both were two women that started in public accounting together. So we were the minorities of the group. And so we wound up spending a lot of time together.
Sure.
And we traveled together extensively. And we just got very close. But the guys that worked with us too, like the people that kind of were started or were working on projects at the same time, like we all got very close.
Right.
And that group, I would say, was definitely more felt like family. And even still, definitely feels like people that I could depend on, and that when we do get together, it's like no time has passed. It's that type of people.
Nice.
And again, we haven't worked together in 15 years, but I still feel like that connection to them. So I did have that. I don't have that now at all. Yeah.
So obviously, my brother and I kind of run my father's business. I've talked about that repeatedly. And so I would classify myself as the boss or an employer rather than necessarily qualifying people as my coworkers per se.
Yep.
But I will say that I feel like most of the people that work there are very close and do have a relationship with their coworkers, including myself and my brother.
Yeah.
Maybe more so me because I interact with the employees a little bit more than my brother does for a lot of reasons.
Sure. Just your role. Yeah.
Yes, but mostly it's because it's my role to kind of keep production moving, which means interacting with everybody else who works there.
Makes sense.
But I do feel like we have a coworker who recently was like, well, whenever I really need to talk to somebody, I talk to you. And I was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
That's nice. Yeah.
I have come into work and been like, this is what happened, or this is, oh man, I got a call from the school because my son did this, or oh, I just got this email, or oh, this.
Sure. This is
I talk
about my life that doesn't actually relate to work.
I talk about my husband. I talk about my family. I talk about
whatever's
what's going on in
your
my
life. Yep, exactly.
We've gone out for drinks before. We've spent time together outside of work. Myself, a little bit. Most of the employees at work are pretty connected to each other as well. I will consider our office a kind of a family situation because everybody's pretty close.
Yeah.
I've asked employees if they wanted to make a few extra bucks and help me move furniture over the weekend, which I know isn't really like a family thing to do.
But it's still not a typical employer-employee situation.
And I've done it because I would rather give the guy who works at my job $20 an hour to move furniture or whatever.
Right, then pay some stranger to do
than
it.
pay a stranger to do it. Because
Yeah.
I know the guy who works with me is going to come probably when it's convenient for me.
Right. He's going to be more reliable,
and
too.
I already know him, and I trust him.
Yes.
And I'm not worried about my stuff or anything like that.
No, that totally makes sense. I mean, yeah. I this popped into my head, but so I will say that my current job, like, I don't even have any friends at my current job. Like, we're just not. It's just that's not the environment that we have, really. Now, on the complete flip side, my husband's job is very much a family.
Sure.
Like, all of them. I mean, it's like we've had bad things happen to a number of people, on his department, and you really do see people act like a family. Like, literally, whatever we need, like, whatever anyone, if anything happened to my husband, I know his whole department. I could call any of them, and they would be here. Like, no questions asked. And that's just the way they all are. And I think that's part of just being in the fire service. But I will say that even as big as their department is, it still very much feels like it's a small family department.
Yeah.
Like, most people know everybody. Like, when he first started, like, we would go to people's kids' birthdays parties, and like we would know everybody's family, and like, I'll see some of their kids now that are in like high school, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like a family. You've gotten so big, how are you, blah blah blah. And like, that's a complete 180 from what my job is, but I still feel that connection to his coworkers because we really are like a family. And in good or bad times I feel like you realize more who you're close to, unfortunately, but but definitely we have that connection to that group of people. Even if I don't at my job, we do at his job.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's funny because on the flip side, my husband doesn't really feel connected to anybody at work. And every once in a while, I'm kind of like, maybe you should hang out with someone from work because, I mean, you work in a very professional environment.
Yeah.
And
it's very different.
Like you said, you weren't in the office for a while as well. Yep. So it's yet another factor that would prevent you from getting close to anybody at work. My husband does work in a much more social environment.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he does sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's totally different. Yeah.
And you would kind of think that would motivate him to make friends.
Be more social. Nope.
No, I mean, there are one or two people over the course of his work life at Benny's that I would definitely say he would be very willing and interested in spending time with outside of work.
Sure.
We had one person that was actually worked for a distribution company that we went to his engagement party.
Oh, okay.
And it was great, and everybody was really nice. Obviously, I didn't know anybody at all. All we knew was the groom.
Right.
We didn't even know the
fiance.
bride. I'd never met her.
Right.
But beyond a couple of exceptions, he just, I think in some ways it's attitude that this is his work environment, and I think he views and maybe you feel that way too, that this is your job, and I'm there to work.
Yeah.
Everyone's there for the bottom line. I mean, you're there to make money and be productive and move forward, and that's what it's about.
And similar to him and me, you're a little different based on, just
I work for my
company
family.
You work for.
I know.
But we are both bosses in our roles.
Yes.
So it's a little bit less appropriate to like socialize with our employees as well.
And it has certainly, for my husband, I can say, has certainly... that has made a difference. That when he started out and he was more of a lower level employee, he would socialize and we did occasionally have people over that were from his job. Our babysitter is somebody who worked at a store that he also worked at, and at the time they were relatively the same level at the company. And so it really wasn't, whereas if he was in his current position, asking this person to be our babysitter might have been awkward because maybe she would have felt like she had to say yes.
Yep, exactly.
Because he's her boss.
Right. Yeah. So it's a little different now.
And it's an interesting point because I think about that a lot as a boss, which I certainly am. I mean, my father owns this business. Yeah. I run this business. There are a lot of occasions where when I'm in a social situation and somebody asks me what I do for a living, I say I own a sign company. Yeah. I don't go through the specifics and say, well, my father owns this business, but my brother and I run it, blah, blah, blah. But this person wanted a one-word answer.
Yeah, exactly. This is your little elevator speech.
I just give the short version.
Exactly, yeah.
My children have corrected me, by the way. You don't own that business. Papa owns that business. Yeah, shh. Thank you. Great. I think, kids,
thanks, guys. Thanks.
You guys are the best. Enjoy this roof over your head. But whatever.
Yeah. But
anyway, though.
Yeah, but that is an interesting group. Yeah.
But it is, I mean, like, I feel like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like at my job, the possibility of creating kind of an awkward situation does exist because I am their boss. But I also think that for the most part, the family relationship that we have at work kind of just is in the at work time, the way that we interact with each other is a little bit more casual.
Yeah.
I would, that would be a lot, that it's okay for an employee to talk to me about, well, I'm thinking about buying this house, but here's all the factors that I'm considering. And, this person also knows that I used to have a real estate license. So they're kind of like, what do you think about this? Or is this a good idea? Or what kind of financing? And I can talk about that, not as his boss.
Not as his boss, but just as,
hey, this is what happened to me and blah, 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 And
Yeah, it's a different situation too. And you are more casual at work than I and my companies in general.
Yes.
So that's a little bit different. But I will say, even in my old job, I was closer with my bosses than I am in my current job.
Sure.
So it depends on the environment and how comfortable you are with people. And, and all of that. So yeah, not now, but in my lifetime, I've had a definitely familial feeling about the people that I work with.
Sure.
So.
Well, and I do wonder about my husband. Should the day come where he starts working for corporate, will that situation change where everyone is at a very similar level?
Yes, that makes a difference
when
too.
You enter this company's corporate level, it appears to me that there's really kind of only two levels. There's like basically the top guys,
and then everybody
there's
else.
Just everybody else.
Yeah, fair.
And so I feel like once you kind of enter that realm,
you're pretty close to on par with the
you're
rest
even
of
with most people you interact with. And as a result, do you get close to them? Do you socialize with them? Do you guys grab dinner together after work? What do you do? Like, I don't really know. I'm very interested.
See what happens. All right.
Factoring in my husband's level of willingness to socialize.
Yeah, that's also a factor there.
Which is also a factor, you guys.
Yeah.
Because he's borderline, at times, interested in socializing.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So we've got actual family, work family,
marriage family.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about friend family.
Yeah.
The one you guys probably are waiting for us. That's right? You probably thought this whole episode was going to be about how we have all these people we are close to because we chose to be close to them.
That is true. Yes. Yes. It's an interesting dynamic. I thought back as I was thinking about this, like people that I thought were like family when I was younger. And my husband and I were briefly chatting about this, and, he was saying, like, some people say they're like family, but when it really comes to test them, you realize who actually means it and who's just giving lip service. Yeah. And so there's definitely a handful of people over my 40 years that I thought for a period were closer to, and in the end really wasn't. And I think that as you get older, you kind of learn to judge people better. And it's just interesting. I definitely feel like I have a number of people in my life now that are like family, friends that are like family, in vastly different groups too.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Very.
I find it, I mentioned this when I had my little birthday gathering, that sometimes I feel a little weird putting all my friends together.
Yeah, they're so...
Because they just come from different universes for me.
Yeah, totally. And that's interesting, and I don't know if it's common or not, because I've been in situations where I've been invited to things and I'm like the only one who doesn't know everyone. And clearly these people are all family, friends, or something, because they all know each other. Right. And I'm like the outcast. And then I'm around other people, like your birthday, or even like the bachelorette party that I'm planning for my friend, that they're people from all different walks of their life. And it's not all one group. So I don't know what's the most common, but for me, it's definitely different people from all different parts of my life.
Yes. So I would say the same. The people that I'm the closest to do just come from a variety of places. And, I think that, like, for example, let's use college. So I think that because we both have friends from college that we're very close to, but all our friends are not friends from college.
No.
And
we're not even closest with the same people necessarily. Yeah. Like, Illy we're both close with.
Yes.
But, like, Robin, I think I'm closer to than you are. I don't know. But we do talk regularly, and we visit, like, I've been out to LA.
Yes.
We all went to college together, but we just had different, people that we attached to.
Well, the people that I was closest to in college aren't necessarily the people I'm closest to now.
Yes, that's totally true.
There's a little bit of that. Yes, my friend Rachel, who we've had on the podcast, is someone that I was close to in college once I met her.
Yes.
And have remained pretty consistently close to all of this time.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and then on the other hand, there are people that, like you and I, when we when we finished college and you stayed for a year and I went on to law school, had a period where we weren't really that close.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going to result. And we reconnected, and I'm super glad we did.
Yeah.
But, I was close to you in high school, and we agreed to be roommates in college, and we had a very positive experience together as college roommates. Yeah. And it just sort of like all of the factors added up for us to stay very close, but instead we had a period where we weren't that close. I mean, I don't remember really talking to you a whole lot when I was in law school.
Yeah, not in grad school either.
Yeah, and I
don't know how many people I really talked to that much in grad school.
Well, I will say the same. My friends when I was in law school were people in law school.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, but no, you're totally right. We went different directions and we didn't talk for a period.
And it's funny, like I said, because we were very close and we had been very close for a very long time. And you just really never know what relationships are going to go what direction.
Completely agree.
I will yet again, I mean, then there's the time post-college where we have friends who they went into careers or they started families or whatever it is that they did. And the way that they have handled their time has really not allowed you to stay close to them.
That's totally true. I've had that exact situation.
I've had plenty of friends that you would think you would be able to stay connected to because you were so close at some other period.
Yeah.
And we had kids or we got married or but you still live 15 minutes away from me. So maybe we should be able to get together once in a while. Yeah. And for one reason or another, that doesn't happen. And I think that for me, when it comes to my friend family, I don't want to have to fight too hard. I don't want to fight it, okay? It's just got to be a little organic. It's got to feel natural.
Mostly organic because especially with how we've talked last week about extracurriculars. We've talked about how much, things we do on a regular basis. Like we have such busy lives with our families, with our kids, with our husbands. I mean, like we don't even get that much time to socialize. So, it can't be a job to stay connected with people. It's got
to be kind of easy.
At this point in our lives, it has to be someone who's understanding. And I don't talk to Ileana as much as I should. Like I need to call her. Illy, I'll call you soon. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm talking to you tomorrow. Never mind. But literally, wonderful. We have to schedule a call to be like, I'm going to talk to you on Monday night at 7:30.
I should do that with Ileana
because
we're really
otherwise we don't
inconsistent, and I think it's that we catch each other at bit because there are many times where I call her and she doesn't answer.
Or she'll call me and she's on her way home or whatever.
And if we were a little bit more of a planner.
And don't get me wrong, this doesn't happen enough, but also I don't think either of us are offended if we're like, we haven't talked in a month. It happens and it's okay. Like, I still love you and we'll be fine, but I can't be that close with anyone at this point that is like, I haven't talked to you in a week. Are you okay? Are we still friends? Like, I couldn't handle that because I just can't do that.
Yeah. On both sides of that conversation.
Agreed.
I'm not going to be that person that's like, why haven't you called me in a week?
No.
And I'm also not going to be that person that's like, I keep calling you and you're not answering and it's been a week.
Right. I can't be on either side of that.
6 months goes by and I've tried to call you. Then I'm going to be like, dude.
Yeah, am
I wasting my time?
Yes.
Just be straight with me. Yeah. And honestly, I'm comfortable saying those words to people at this point. If I felt that way, I would just be like, you know what? I'm just going to back off.
Yeah.
And we'll see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, and that's fine, in my opinion. But I do think that the relationships, the friendships that I truly feel are like family are the ones that I haven't had to force.
Yes.
And that have either grown organically or reconnected organically or whatever, but I don't have to force that friendship to be there. And those are the ones that stick to me. So
I think it's got to feel natural.
Yeah.
It's got to feel simple.
Yeah,
straightforward.
I agree. And don't get me wrong, I'm not being like, I'm never gonna call you. But like, I might not have time for a few weeks. Like, it's not that you never have to put in any effort, but you can't feel like it's work. You need to.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be people that are in the same phase of life as you. I mean, I have plenty of friends who are married but don't have children, who are not married, or have kids who are much younger than my children.
Also, all of those.
And those are all different phases of life.
Yep.
I know this because I've been in all of those phases already.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember what they're like.
Yeah.
And I remember how you managed your time and how you handled your friends and what you spent your free time doing and how your life went.
Everyone's life is busy in its own way. And that might look different to different people in different phases, but I am very thankful for the friends I do have that are like family, because everyone serves a purpose in your life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. You can think of the person you would call if a certain thing happened.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I'm going to call so and so. She's totally going to get it.
And it's different depending on what that is.
Yes.
But you have all these people that fulfill a piece of your needs in your life, and those are the things that do grow organically. Is I need someone that's this to me. I need someone that's this. And you wind up filling those with all different people, which is probably why our friends are from all different walks of life. Because they all serve a very different purpose. But I definitely feel like those people, the ones we choose, are just as valuable and just as important as the ones we don't choose.
Absolutely. If not more so in some cases. I mean, I'm going to message you when my kids do something to upset me.
Yeah. No, totally.
I can complain about my children to Lauren, and that is really important.
Oh, seriously.
But if I complain about my kids to my mom, she will just say, they are sweet baby angels.
Exactly.
What do you have to complain about? They are
and
wonderful.
Like, why
and
did
perfect.
I even bother?
And I'm just like, okay, man.
Yeah, that's not what
If I were to say that my 10-year-old isn't the best soccer player on his team, my mother would be like,
vehemently disagree.
He is wonderful.
Yeah.
He is wonderful, Mom, just not at soccer.
Yes, exactly.
He's not the best at soccer.
Right. But again, everybody has their role in our lives. And it's, I do feel like as I've gotten older that people have become more of a stable position. Like, when we were a little bit younger or just out of college or just having kids or whatever, just like kind of settling into our lives.
Yeah.
I feel like I did go through a variety of friendships that didn't really stick.
Well, and I worry much less about that with my current arsenal of friends.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, now I feel like I really have a stable group of friends that probably will remain unless I add to it, depending on jobs or different things, or obviously like as my kids get friends that, we like their parents and whatnot. But generally speaking, everybody that's in my life now, I pretty much expect to stay in my life. So, and I don't feel like that's unreasonable at all.
That's good, because as a person who consistently puts her foot in her mouth, it's good to know that some of my friends may have also moved into this phase that you are in of being a little bit forgiving.
I think we all have to be a little forgiving.
I just sometimes words come out and I'm just like, oh no,
that's
time to hit
right
the rewind button.
Yeah. That's not what it should have sounded like. Nope.
This is conveying the wrong message. And as somebody who is like that, and it's funny because I have this relationship with my immediate family, I understand that there are moments where you say something that comes out a certain way, and that these people allow you to either explain yourself or correct the situation.
They give you a little grace. Yeah.
And I do feel that way about my friends and my friend family, that there are moments where I'm like, I'm coming off as judgmental about this, but, or whatever the case may be.
Sure. Yeah.
And where, rather than this person just being like, wow, I had no idea that she was so close-minded.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Oftentimes I also say things that aren't, that could be conveyed in the wrong light. Like,
yes, maybe that's why we
there's
get along,
two different like ways you could take one thing, sometimes it sounds like the wrong one. So,
yeah.
But I think everybody has their moments. It's kind of interesting. Like, I do have a core group of people that I truly do feel like they're my friend family. And then it's weird when like other people kind of come in, because then I'm like, you know, I have to evaluate like where do you fit in my life?
Yeah.
Like, and so right now there's a handful of people that are just completely social that I don't actually think that I'll ever get that close to. But then there's once in a while someone new who I'm like, oh, I could really connect with you. And as I get older, I feel like there's less and less of that, because I do have kind of a stable like group of friends.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting. Like, my friendships now as I get older are much different than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah. I try not to close myself off, though. Yeah. You never know when you might find a new best friend.
You never know. I mean, you never know who, yeah, exactly, who's going to come into your life that you never knew you needed. You know, for some reason.
You never realize what connections you need with people until those connections happen.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's finish up with...
Let's drink this Doppelbach Dunkle.
All right.
Shall we?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, this is what they brew year round. So this is always available. I mean, it might not always be available here, but it is always available in Munich. So
it smells so good, you guys. It's like a wonderful loaf of bread.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? This is what when people say that beer has like a bready
this
smell,
would be it. This is a perfect example.
Is what they're talking about, right?
Yeah, this is a perfect example of that. And again, the ingredients are water, barley malt, and hops. So, you know, just the basics. But yeah, no, this does have that aroma. As I put my nose in my glass, this does have that aroma.
Smelled it very intensely.
It's super, yeah. I do, again, we've talked about this. I really enjoy the smell almost just as much as the taste of some of these. So
totally.
Mm. Oh,
well, we're going to finish this off, guys, and we're going to thank you for joining us tonight on our family talk.
On our family international adventures.
Yep.
So, all right, cheers.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week, and cheers to you all.